Good morning from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. It's a scathing hot morning. It's 11:01 on the 16th of March 2023. And it's scathing hot, but it's been hot all week. And we had a lovely storm last night which refreshed the air slightly this morning, but now we're back to steaming in the summer heat. So I'm making this video because yesterday, which was the 15th of March, I had a bit of luck and I sold two of my former dead mother's beautiful crystal decanters because I'm gradually decluttering of excess dross, which is my inheritance, and I'm only keeping things that I really want to keep. And I guess when I have more money I can replace a few lovely things if I wanted to. So all is not lost, but I did go into quite a bad depression after selling the two lovely bottles, because I realised that I'm decluttering like a demon, but you know, at the end of the day, if I'm not successful with my silversmithing, I may find that I'm living in an emptied out house and I still have no money and I still haven't gotten any further along with life. So I had this existential crisis about it yesterday. And part of that probably was precipitated by the intense humidity, because Mama T, that is me, the psychedelic dreamer, that is also me, does not cope with extreme temperatures. I can't handle extreme cold, otherwise I'd be in Scandinavia right now pretending to be a Viking, and I can't handle extreme heat. So I'm lucky that the winters here in Brisbane are quite mild, so 3 months of the year are bearable and 9 months of the 9 months of the year are a living hell, right? As you can see, I need to wash my hair, but my lovely cleaning lady is here and I didn't want to, trash the shower before she cleaned, so I'll have a shower later on. And I just had a little bit of a sponge bath, but I didn't have time to wash my hair, so I look a bit grotty. Sultry temptress of the estrus of the Brisbanian subtropics. Don't get too excited. There's nothing sexy about sweaty, mouldy old ladies, just saying. Anyway. So yes, I got to thinking. I did a lot of deep thinking yesterday while I was deeply depressed about my misfortunes. On Sunday I was attempting to make a beautiful silver ring that I've cast in the Delft sanding clay. Delft clay, which is like a kind of oily sand. And I made the mould, and I even and I hope I've done it right, because I won't know until I buy some more gas to finish the job. I hope I've done it right. But I even inserted little tiny raw rubies. I bought them very reasonably from a supplier here in Brisbane that I met through the Women's Jewellers Collective, which is a very beautiful group and very nurturing, very kind, very supportive, teaching newbies like me, how to make jewellery or tricks of their trade or skills that they've learned over time. So some of the women in this collective have been jewellers for, upwards of 50 years, and are older and wiser and experienced. And some are, very young women learning. And then there's me, who at almost 58 years of age is very young and naive and a bit stupid, quite frankly. But I'm trying my best. I'm trying to learn as much as I can, because I've dedicated myself to this notion that I might be able to become a good enough jeweller one day, that I'll be able to sell things and make a little living for myself, and ultimately and this is a fantasy, people, but ultimately my goal is to get off the disability pension and be self-sufficient and not under governmental control, and also be able to maybe find a partner and be able to afford to live with a partner, because if you're on a disability pension you can't live with anyone because you lose your pension and you can't survive financially, and you're at the mercy of some man who might not turn out to be very nice, and I'd lose my home and my pension and my security, and that's too much of a risk, right? And anyway, in all this time I haven't found a man that's decent enough to say, Tanya, you're the one and I'm going to live with you and stand by you and be your man and blah blah blah. And a lot of that is financial, because people don't have money, they can't make a commitment like that. You can't support some woman who's unwell most of the time anyway. I mean, not so much mentally, but physically now my health is precarious. My mental health's quite good now, thank goodness, except yesterday was a dark day. Yesterday was a dark day because as I started to tell the story, I made this beautiful ring on Sunday and went out to my soldering station over there and was very excited and melted the silver perfectly with the new Smith Little torch that cost me a grand sum of money. It's not a cheap item to purchase when you're a pensioner. And the cheap, nasty crucible tongs I had slipped and spilt this molten silver all over my very expensive Smith Little hoses, which blew a hole in them, which meant the oxygen compressed gas was, and I freaked completely out because I thought I was about to blow myself up, quite frankly. So anyway, I quickly turned off the tanks, the LPG and the gas, so there was no serious accident. And I was lucky that the silver didn't hit my bare feet and my legs, because it could have been badly burnt, and only damaged the lovely hoses, right? So I was fucking distraught. I really was. I was so distraught, because I know that equipment, replacements cost a lot of money. I already knew that. And I was like, what am I going to do? Anyway, I went on the Women's Collective, and they were so supportive and loving and nurturing and kind. And they said, look, that's a terrible mishap to happen, but it's an expensive one. And in America, you can get the hoses for like $20, and a lot of them are in America. And one lady was in Alaska and said you can go to this welding company and buy the hoses there, and it's like dirt cheap. But here, to replace them at Australian Jewellery Supplies, which is where I bought the torch from, to replace them costs $440 just for the hoses on their own. And I knew that because I looked up the website. That's including GST, right? So it's $404 something plus GST. You're looking at nearly $445. So I freaked the hell out. I really freaked the hell out, because I'm paying off the torch slowly, on zip pay, which is fine, that's doable. But I didn't anticipate having to now find another, nearly $500. So I was freaking out about it. Anyway, I had so much love and support and kindness from the women jewellers. And so they said, oh, go and see, what alternatives there are. And then some of the women who are very clever and obviously got more skills said, oh, look, the hoses are a hassle to change, but you can change them. And some even suggested using aquarium hose, and which would work. But the problem is I don't know how to connect it safely and have the connections right. I'm scared of making a mistake and potentially causing a fire or an worse accident than melting the bloody hoses, right? And it's my fear that's costing me the money, because if I had the knowledge and the skills, it's a piece of piss to change the hoses for $10 and when you know what you're doing, right? So I hummed and hawed, and I thought about all my options, what I was going to do. Anyway, I felt ennobled and strengthened by the advice from these lovely women from all over the world that were so lovely and supportive. And so Monday I got up bold as brass, and I was still thinking about it, and it got to about lunchtime, about midday, and I thought, you know what, I'll just ring the Australian jewellers and see what... Oh no, that's right, that's why I rang them. Got to about lunchtime and I was still thinking what I'm going to do, and the ad came up on my email from Australian Jeweller Supplies that they have a sale on. And they have a sale on, would you believe it, on torch kits for the Little Smith torch. Just the torch handset, 5 new tips, and the hoses, which is all I need. I actually only need the hoses. I don't need the torch handset and new tips because my torch is fairly new. I only bought it in January. So I was like, well, that's a bit crazy. Anyway, so the price was $381.16 on special, 20% discount, which is a good discount, right? So, and the reason that they were selling them off cheap is they overstocked during COVID, and because they worried about COVID, and so they overstocked. So I thought, well, that misfortune is my fortune if I can get a bargain, replace the torch and the hoses. So I rang them and I spoke to Mark, who I've done business with there, the first time I went there a couple of months ago. And look, he's lovely. He's an Englishman and he calls me sweetheart and darling and lovey. And I don't take it personal, like, that he's interested in me romantically or anything like that, because that's just how the English, certain parts of England, people call you love, and it's all very affectionate and quite sweet, really. So he's calling me, oh, okay, sweetheart. And I was like, I need to buy a replacement crucible holder and it needs to be your strongest one that holds bowls. I said, because I've bought bowls, the round bowls, and I don't have the square shape. And he said, oh no, you're right, sweetheart, we sell one that holds the bowls, and we do have one that holds the square crucibles, but we have one for bowls too. And I said, look, I've had this terrible accident with my Little Smith torch, and I said, I wonder, how much discount would you have on the sale for me just to buy the hoses? And he very dryly said, oh, I can't help you with that. I would lose my job, sweetheart, kind of thing. And I'm like, what? He thought that I was being a bit frisky or flirtatious to try and beat him down in price even more, or some angle. And that wasn't my intention at all. So straight away, I said very, school marmishly, I said, oh no, I said, I'm not asking for any special favours. I said, I just want to find out the best deal because I now have to replace the hoses, and your hoses, just the hoses on their own, is more expensive than buying the torch on sale. He goes, yes, but I can't go any cheaper, and that's just the way it is, and you're better off to buy the whole new torch kit because the hoses are already attached and you won't have the problem of trying to fit them and have that go wrong. So clearly they think I'm a bit of an idiot, and clearly I am a bit of an idiot, quite frankly, having melted my hoses with my beautiful silver. And look, I'm still upset. But anyway, so I said to him, all right, I said, I think it's best I come into the store and I look at the crucibles that I'm buying. I need another crucible bowl anyway because my other ones have cracked and aren't really worth persevering with anymore. And so I went in, I caught the bus in, and I'm full of vim and vigour and excitement because I'm determined to make this work, right? Even though my funds are very limited. I just heard a scuffle. I'm very nervous about snakes now because we had this massive big python that was after Charlie, and so I hear things and I think, oh, I hope there's some snakes sneaking up on us. So that's why I'm looking paranoid, So anyway, I'm not really paranoid. There really are serpents in my garden at the moment, with the heat and everything. I mean, they're fabulous, but they're terrifying at the same time. So anyway, I digress. So off I go, get on the bus, and I arrive in the city, and I walk to the building, and I walk into the entrance to the building, which is beside Vodafone, and I'm there, and I couldn't remember what level their shop is on in this building, right? T&G building, I think it is. So I'm looking at the board, right? Staring at the board. So I had my back to the lift, and I'm looking at the board, and I'm looking and searching, and finally I find it, level 4. And I turned around. Look, there was such a beautiful love energy on Monday. It was actually quite delightful. Also a very hot day, but people were lovely. So I turn around, and there's this man standing in the lift with the doors wide open, staring at me like this, because he knew I was about to turn around wanting to go in the lift. So he was probably holding the lift for me, which was very sweet, actually. So I looked at him in surprise, because he didn't need to hold the lift, because for all he knows, I might have been standing there for yonks, because I disassociate and I go into my little, other dimensions, and sometimes I can be a bit, take a while to get my shit together, right? But anyway, this lovely man was holding the lift, so I looked at him and smiled and said thank you. And I get in the lift with him, and I turn around to face the front, and no sooner I'm facing the front, this woman, younger woman than me, probably in her early 40s, marches into the lift, and the doors are just closing like this, and I'm like freaking out for a moment, and she forcefully pushes her two hands together, into the gap between the doors of the lift, and she pushes them open. And because I was worried that she was going to get crushed too, because I have a phobia of lifts closing on me myself, I shoved my arm in and I'm pushing with my left hand. So together we shove these doors open, and she just looks at me and nods very assertively, and I thought to myself, you go girl, the sort of thing I would do. And she climbs into the lift with us. Anyway, I had already pressed level 4, so we get up to level 4, and I march out of the lift. And then I was sort of conscious that the woman was behind me a little bit, walking behind me. I didn't think too much of it. So I turned left, and then you go to turn right to go to AJS. So I looked behind me. I said, are you coming with me? And she said, yes, I am. And so I reef open their big heavy glass door, and as I'm pulling the door open, I said to her, she said, it's only my first time here. And so very gaily and ebulliently I yell out, oh, it's your first time, darling. I said, don't worry, they'll look after you. It's only my second time. I said, they're very nice here, they'll look after you. And the 3 men and the female staff member that works in there could hear me, because I was quite loud. And they were laughing, oh yes, we'll look after you. And I'm like chuckling to myself, because every time I go there it costs me an arm and a leg, because I get excited and tempted and buy tools and equipment and things, which I need and I don't need. Like there's things that I bought, last time that I could have waited for. Anyway, so I did the same trick this time, didn't I? I just get too excited, because I really want to be a jeweller now. For the first time in my life, I want to actually have a trade and make something of myself, and it's kind of insane and ridiculous, because I'm old now and I'm tired and I'm not very well, and I'm pedaling as fast as I can, going nowhere, right? Doing expensive damage like I did with the fucking little Smith little hoses. So anyway, the lady that came in with me, she's giggling too. Oh yes, we'll look after you. You don't worry. She was a nice woman. She went looking around at everything, what she wanted, and Mark, the Englishman that serves me, he said straight away, holds up the crucible holder, the good one that I needed yesterday, and I shouldn't have bought the shitty cheap ones that caused me so much damage, right? Through the stupidity of their design and you know, just the malfeasance of it all. I'm so upset about that. You know, he holds up the really expensive, it's an expensive item, $116 plus GST it costs. This big, hefty crucible holder, and he goes, "This is the one you want. I've already grabbed it for you, sweetheart. Don't worry. It holds the bowls." And I was like, "Oh, Mark," I said, "I've actually ordered 2 more crucible bowls online." I said, "But you know what? I'm so stupid." I said, "I can't remember if they're a big enough size or not. I think I ordered larger size bowls, but I can't honestly remember." And he's looking at me, and I went, "I know, I'm going backwards to go forwards. I'm really struggling with all this." I said, "So I'm going to have to buy another bowl that fits that crucible holder, because the ones I have at home I know are far too small, won't fit it." He goes, "Oh, that's no good, lovey. We'll go and get you a crucible bowl." So he shows me all the crucible bowls. And honestly, he's a lovely man. I mean, he's a salesman, you know. It's all a bit mercenary. They're all out for sales. But he's actually a very sweet man, and he's sweet how he goes about it, you know. Actually, last time I went into the store, he actually told me that he's actually a shoemaker by trade. He used to do shoe repairs, but, you know, he's trained as a shoemaker, which I think is a fabulous talent to have, actually. I actually thought about at one stage maybe doing a course learning how to make shoes. So I looked at him a bit in amazement. In those days, I had no confidence at all. I thought I probably don't have the skills, but knowing that what I've learnt through making jewellery, I know I could probably learn a few skills, right, along the way. But my problem is doing these expensive courses are very prohibitive for me because of the disability pension and lacking confidence, and then being in classes with other people usually ends up being in conflict situations, and I get traumatised or triggered or distressed. I usually end up having to leave courses and not finish what I started because of other, you know, bestial human beings. It's been a long history of that, so which is why I'm trying to teach myself silversmithing and learn what I can from this really lovely Facebook group, you know, the Women's Collective, who are very lovely. But sometimes, you know, there are times when you actually need to have a physical person standing beside you going, "You do this and you do that," and show you. It would be easier. But, you know, I'm learning what I can from YouTube and what I can from studying through this, watching what all the beautiful jewellers post up, and everyone, how did you do that, and what did you need to do that. And so I'm learning that way. And you know what, that is just as valuable, really. You know, it's just little bit building the knowledge base in my brain and trying to hold on to the information and not make serious mistakes with my torch, which that was not actually my fault, really. It just, the tongs were used. I'm going to throw those tongs out. Dreadful it was. Anyway, so Mark shows me the right crucible, and he says the white bowls take higher temperatures, so actually that'd be good for when I melt the copper, right? Because I'm freaking out when I'm going to melt the copper, and I've been trying to find a way to get a big steel bowl-shaped piece of angle iron, but I haven't found any yet. Because a video I watched, the man just used something like that had a bit of a indentation. It was steel, and he uses that, but I haven't got that far. And to melt the copper, I need the hoses, the new kit, because only the little smith reaches a hot enough temperature to melt copper. The propane gas doesn't get hot enough. I know, because I tried, and after failing multiple times, found that out by watching YouTube, that they said, no, you need the oxygen and the LPG, the propane, and sometimes you need acetylene, which I don't have the acetylene. It's too dangerous, and I'm even struggling with the LPG actually, so it's good that I didn't go for the acetylene. So anyway, I'm sure that it is manageable when you're trained and you know what you're doing, but because I'm self-teaching, I went. And anyway, AJS only sells to the jewellers the propane and oxygen kit, so that's fine. You know, let's just keep it safe, people. Hello. So anyway, so while I'm there looking at the things, of course I got excited. I said, I need 2 aught saw blades because I'm running low. So I bought some of those, and he's getting them for me, and he's really a lovely person. And then I walked past all their wax carving display, and I said to him, I said, I think I need to buy some wax so I can practice making rings when I can get my casting happening. I said, with wax, and carve rings. And he said, oh, that's a lovely idea. So he shows me the tools. So now this is where I went a bit crazy, people, because I really only went in just to buy the crucible holder. But I got excited about the wax, so I bought some wax, and I bought some little files for filing wax, and I bought a few more things to work with. I bought some wax saw blades that are specially designed to file, to cut wax, because if you use your normal saw blades, they just get gummed up and they get ruined. You can't work with it. So I bought that, and he suggested I buy a wax mandrel, which you put the wax ring on, and you choose what size you want the ring to be. Had the sizing on the actual mandrel, and it has a blade inside it, and it just slices the wax inside to the right size of the ring, which is a brilliant idea. But anyway, that was $40 plus GST, so I thought, I can't afford that right now. So I was booking myself up. I knew I was booking myself up, so I said, I'll come back and get that in a few weeks' time. And he said again, about the torch, that it's on special now until April, and all up it's $420 with GST, which is cheaper than buying just the hoses on their own, and recommended I do that, but I can't afford another $440, and I just booked myself up for the wax and the crucible holder, so I didn't dare buy the brand new hoses and the brand new torch kit just now. But in May I'm due for another advance. On my pension I get an advance twice a year, so I also need to fix the brakes on my car, and that's another $440 worth. So my advance that comes in May will get spent on the car, getting the brakes done, and I'll probably buy the replacement torch for the hoses then, although it won't be on special then, so eek. Anyway, juggle as fast as I can, right? And freaking out about it. So anyway, I come out with my goodies, with my lovely goodies, and I said thank you to Mark, and he said, I was wearing my Yoda. I said, oh, this has been an expensive pendant, most expensive pendant I've ever made. I said, why? I said, well, I used the brand new little Smith torch to complete it, and it's turned out perfect. I said, but it's the only thing I managed to make before I blew out the bloody hoses. So, $1,370 worth for one pendant. I said, that's not really viable, is it? And they looked at me. They went, you did a really good job. He said, show it to the other co-worker, so show it to him. He said, that's actually really good, Tan, you did a really good job. Well, I did, but it's also fairly easy when you've got the right Delft sand, you've got it all the conditions are right. You can make quite beautiful things. So I said to them, yes, I know I can make jewellery now. So once I sort this problem out with the torch and have it all happening properly, I can make lovely things. It's just a matter of being able to afford the silver and being able to afford the tools and equipment to keep making things, right? And I said, well, it is an expensive hobby, making jewellery, and I smiled. I know. My mother used to make it. I was making it when I was 6 years old, making hippie love beads for my mother, who used to take the little strings of beads, like they were long strings of beads. A lot of work for a 6-year-old child. In the evenings after dinner, when I was tired, mind you. My mother was an exploitive narcissist psychopath, which is a narcopath for short. She used to exploit the fuck out of me even as a young child, right? She was just evil, really was evil. But anyway, I was making these little love beads, strings of little seed beads when I was 6 years old, every night after school. And at that time, my mother was working for a borstal, which was a young girls' delinquent home for young girls who were runaways mostly. And let's face it, the majority of them were running away because they had a sexual predator in their house molesting or raping them. So they'd run away, they'd get arrested, they'd get put in these homes, right? This is in 1971 when I was 6 years old. And these poor girls who were like between the ages of 14 to 18 would get put in these vile homes where, again, they were often raped by, this actually happened, people. Some of the lesbian guards were raping them, or they were beaten almost to death. And I know that for a fact because my mother was working there. I'm not sure in what capacity she was working there, whether she was there as a cleaner or if she was there as some sort of carer to help look after the girls. But these teenage girls absolutely loved my mother. Now, my mother was a street angel and a home devil, you know. At 6 years old, I too was being molested by the family friend, the predator, my godfather. And my mother admitted later in life that she knew all about it and called me and my sister dirty little girls because she was an evil piece of shit, my mother. Absolutely evil piece of shit to do that to us and then blame us for what was happening to us as young children. She was disgusting, which is partly why after 13 years after her death now, exactly 13 years, she died on the 7th of March 2010, I'm finally decluttering and letting go of excess things that I fought for to have possession of because I was robbed of the equivalent of 4 houses, plus land my grandfather wanted me to have in Waiheke Island in New Zealand, which is now worth millions. Did a gentleman's handshake with my mother. She robbed me of that and sold that land off before we came to Australia. So she was completely greedy, corrupt and evil towards her own daughters, right? So here I was making these sweet little love bead necklaces, age 6, being predated on by our own family predator, making these necklaces for these sweet little girls who deserved a nice life and safety, who were being brutalised in that home, where my mother wasn't brutalising them. Oh no, she wasn't like that with other people, only with her own daughters, right? And she was playing the big mama, earth mother, generous earth goddess, bringing them all these necklaces that her own little girl was making for them each night after school, right? And I actually wrote that on the website for the Royal Commission, and New Zealand had a Royal Commission, I think it was a year or 2 years ago, into all the abuses that went on in all those homes and the foster system, and in particular the government-run borstals, because those young girls and boys were utterly tortured and brutalised to the point where the majority of them now who are my age, many of them, and a large majority of them were Maori and Pacific Islander people too, were so brutalised that they ended up on drugs, in prostitution, completely handicapped. Some had most terrible brain damage from being beaten almost to death. I mean, the things that happened to these children was abhorrent, utterly abhorrent. And I know it's true because my mother would take these necklaces into this borstal in Miramar and Wellington as presents to soften the agony that they were enduring in that home. You know, they were made to wake up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and scrub all the floors on their bare hands and knees and wax all the floors before they even were able to have breakfast and start their day. They were worked half to death, these young girls as well. So anyway, my mother was playing, this beautiful earth angel for these children while she was torturing me at home, right, with her best friend, the predator, and, throwing me into a glass door because I wanted to stay a bit longer at my friend's house down the road because I didn't want to be home when the family predator came to visit for obvious reasons. She picked me up, threw me into the door. So anyway, all those stories I've outlined and written in my De Book in the Roof story, which you can read on Vocal Media, so we won't go into that here. But it was horrific, right? So I'm sitting there making these necklaces, and much later, only 2 years ago, decades later, I said to those young, well, they're not young anymore, those survivors of those borstals, I said, I was made to make necklaces for you so that you would have something lovely to wear and look forward to and take delight in, while I myself was being tortured as a young child at home, because it is a form of torture to be sexually abused and brutalised and beaten and sent to school in a very bad state, and then again bullied and harassed and victimised in the school system. I've had a lifetime of that shit, which is why I get a little bit feral and wild now in old age, because I just can't do it anymore. I can't. No one can continue to exist like that. So there's times when I still get a little bit suicidal, and I've been lucky to have had a reasonably good life in comparison to those girls. Everything is on a sliding scale, right, of trauma. All trauma is bad, but it's just depends on how cumulative it is, how often, how frequent, and the pile-ons and the pile-ons and the pile-ons. So here I am at 50, almost 58, trying to build a life for myself, get self-sufficient, dreamer, psychedelic dreamer. I've never done psychedelics, people. I'm psychedelic dreamer because I dream in Technicolor. But dreamer dreams of a life that she is self-sustaining and self-made and free of all the evil bullshit handed us by our government with the current COVID epoch. And I want to be free of all the malevolence and evil, and is that even possible in this current paradigm? Is it even, am I dreaming the impossible dream? Yes. So anyway, to go back to making this ring, so I made the ring with little raw Burmese rubies that I got very cheaply. I think I got 10 for $24, so they're $2.40 each, which isn't very dear. And I put 3. Did I put 3 or 5? Yes, I put 5 in the ring. So $12 worth of tiny little raw rubies are in that ring mould. And so I was so distraught because I couldn't finish the job because I wrecked the hoses. So then anyway, Monday I go and buy the crucible, and I had planned to go and buy the map gas, which you can buy 3 bottles for $40, and you actually go through all 3 just to make one thing because it doesn't quite reach hot enough temperatures to melt the silver. It will melt the silver. Like I've made, the first attempt I made one of these was made with map gas. It does melt, but it takes longer to melt, and it's very stressful and you're not sure if it's going to work or not. So there is that. So anyway, is my lady Rati. So anyway, I So I'm sort of a little bit nervous about it, but I can do it. I've done it before, and he would have been a success even with a MAP gas, but I didn't have the right sprue holes for his ears, so his ears didn't form properly, and he ended up looking like Shrek. I was very disappointed about that. So it took me 5 goes to make Yoda, and the force truly is with me because I keep trying. I'm determined. So anyway, Monday I go back from the jeweler. This is in the city, and I walk into the Maya Centre, and I went looking around for the bus to catch the bus home. And for some crazy reason, probably I'm in a slightly disassociative state, I thought that there had been roadworks and some sort of works around the bus terminal under there, and I thought they'd changed the bus depot where you catch the 180 to get to my place, right? So I went looking in all the wrong directions, and finally I realised it's in the same spot it had always been where to catch the bus. But anyway, I went and had lunch first, sat down, had lunch, and looked at all my new purchases, and was so riddled with anxiety because money and stress about money and worry, and am I doing the right thing, and am I wasting my time, and am I full parting with my cash and going backwards to get forwards and beating myself up. So I'm sitting there in the Maya Centre, just the stress was pouring out of me like a fountain. If anyone could see my aura, they just would have seen it like a cascading fountain, right? So anyway, then I went down to catch the bus. You've got to go down underneath the building, down these stairs. So I hobbled down these stairs, and so I go down there, and I see this younger man sitting there and 2 other women, just waiting for the bus. So I plonk my stuff down and fossick through my bag of stuff, still worrying that I've done the right thing, and am I on the right path, and am I going to build a life for myself, or am I going to fail? I've failed at everything in life through no fault of my own previously because of malfeasances from family members and my ex-husband and lovers and their associates, and the viciousness that was piled on to me for decades. It's taken me decades to heal from it, right? 20 years it's taken me to heal from it. And so I thought, what am I actually doing, and is it too little too late? Am I too old now, and am I wasting my time? And a big part of me does think I'm wasting my time, but then I thought, well, all I can do is do my best, make what I can make, and take delight in that, in my small little achievements, and try not to worry so much, because the worry alone is killing me, right? So the bus was waiting there. The driver came out and just kind of stared at us really aggressively, which was weird. So I just sort of stared back. And he went back and did his thing. And then it was time to alight the bus. But anyway, just before that happened, the nice young man that had been sitting there when I arrived stood up and came along beside me and said, in very good English, had a slight Russian accent, but not a strong accent, so he must have grown up here. He said to me, "Excuse me, I just want to make sure," he said, "that the 180 goes to Garden City." And he shows me on his phone, I could see all the Cyrillic writing in Russian, right? And he's looking quite anxious too. And I smiled to myself, because me with my big Slavic Polish face, Russian people are often drawn to me because they think I'm Russian. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just my big round face from my Polish ancestors. So I kind of smiled and was friendly and welcoming, and I said, "Oh yes, you're definitely catching the right bus." And he said, "Oh, are you sure?" Because I said, I went looking, he said, and I went to the wrong bus station. I said, "You know what, so did I." I said, "I did that today too." I said, "I thought they had all these sort of roadworks and renovations. I said, but it's here. We are here, and it is the right destination. He said, oh, thank you so much. I'm so worried. He said, I'm just wanted to double check. I said, no, that's fine. And I said, just stay on the bus all the way, because where you go to Garden City, it's actually at the depot at the other end. So you just stay there and get off at the end and you'll be right. And I said, just a short walk to McGregor Street, which was where he was wanting to go. He said, oh yes, I know how to get to McGregor Street. He said, I just wasn't sure this was the right bus. So I said, okay, that's fine. So anyway, we alight the bus. I sit not too far away from him, but away, you know. Anyway, the little bugger, he would have been in his early 40s, but I'm sure it was anxiety, making sure he was on the right, destination. But I kind of had to chuckle to myself. He was a nice-looking younger man, very nice-looking. And he kept looking over at me like... and I was thinking, oh, this is getting awkward now. And I thought, well, I could have sat with him and chatted, but it just would have been a bit like weird and inappropriate, you know. So anyway, I had to get off at my stop, which is like half his journey, you know. So of course I felt a bit worried actually. I thought he'd probably be worried, but I had told him to stay on the bus till the end. So anyway, I could see he kept looking at his iPhone and had a map, and he was working it all out. So I know he'll work it out. But anyway, so I almost met a very nice man on Monday, as well as buying the jewellery supplies I needed. So there you go. So I was all very happy about that. I thought there's nice people out in the world, and I do meet them, and life is beautiful, and I just need to calm down and carry on with what I'm doing and trust in myself some more, right? Anyway, Tuesday came along. I can't remember what I did Tuesday. I didn't do anything. I didn't do any jewellery making. I didn't do anything. I just watched TV and relaxed, because I thought it's all been a bit intense, really. You know, this upset over the torch, the Smith little torch. I'm saying it like it's a spell. Smith little torch, Smith little torch, come to me, Smith little torch. I have things to create, and I need to be able to manufacture my own jewellery and be a financially independent, successful woman, and maybe allow true love in my life, but I don't feel like a bum and a loser, as well as all the other horror that was inflicted on me on life. So anyway, there is that. So Monday night, I got a message on Facebook, because I'm selling off my mother's excess china and crystal, and it's very slowly selling off, and I'm not charging very much, and it kind of hurts to have to let it go so cheaply too, honestly. And that's where I'm having a crisis, like am I even doing the right thing, but it's decluttering my house and allowing for new, bright, positive energy and success, and not being blocked by old trauma memories from my mother, right? Staring at the stuff. Like, I sold this beautiful brass lamp with cherubs for $150. It was worth at least $600. The people quibbled, and I went, no, I'm not dropping to $100. It's worth way more than $150 that I was charging for it. I thought they had a cheek, actually. But the very next day they came and said, yes, we want it, because they would have gone to an antique shop, found out what its true worth is. Hate to think what its true worth is. I'm thinking of $600, it's probably worth double that. Anyway, no good worrying about that. I let it go for $150, because I was sick of looking at it and thinking about all the times as a child my mother made me polish the entire thing with brass, and I put all that work into that, even as a child, and then had to fight to get it into my possession when she died. I mean, it was heinous what I was put through. And not just that, but those evil, disgusting Dutch Indonesian bitches stole houses from me, the equivalent of 4 houses the con man father stole from me. So I'm not over that. I will never ever forgive that. That was evil. They're prospering from me being tortured as a young girl, and then had the nerve to call me a liar. filthy they are. I hope they rot in hell for eternity. Them and their father, who died in 2008. But anyway, we will let go and we will let love. I'm making my life beautiful. I'm working very hard for it. So anyway, I'll just say goodbye to my lady. Bye, Rati. See you next week, darling. Thank you so much. Bye. Oh, she's here somewhere. Underneath me. Bye, darling. So I'm making my life beautiful, day by day, bit by bit, selling off my mother's remaining chattels, of the things that I don't want to keep as reminders of her anymore, and that don't spark joy. And I'll keep, obviously, the things that I do love and value, because I worked for them hard even as a young child, and then had to fight evil, draconian lawyers, the state, and those women to have those few things. So I deserve to be prosperous and be happy, because everything I've had in life, I've literally had to fight like a demon for, and lost to lawyers. On that note, today, this morning, was the judge directions on the TVT tape claim, and I was supposed to be listening to that this morning, the video link, but I actually disassociatively forgot about it. Plus I had my cleaning lady here, and anyway, I completely forgot about it. So I don't even know how that judgment ended up. But I know I won't get very much settlement from that, because the lawyers take all the money anyway, and the bulk of the settlement will go to the women who were so severely damaged that they're confined to wheelchairs and can't have normal sexual relations or pee anymore, and they deserve to have that money. And I went into that settlement, the class action, primarily to give them the support that they get something. And if I get any little bit of money from it, whatever I get, if I get anything, will go towards my silversmithing hobby anyway. So, I hope they win. I hope we win. I hope we women win for a change, because we were again malfeasantly brutalised and tortured and installed with alien tissue inside our bodies, which our bodies are autoimmunely fighting against on a daily basis, which is why I have trouble with my bladder again. It's awful. It's awful what's been done to me as a woman and as a human being. But anywho, I digress. So yesterday I woke up early because a man was coming to buy 2 crystal decanters, and he did indeed buy them for $80, $40 each, which isn't very much. And he tried to beat me down also initially, and I said, mate, you can't even buy them for that in a second-hand shop. You can't. The second-hand shops are ripping people off something chronic now too. Everyone's so greedy and verminous now. And everyone is in survival mode with the COVID epoch. So they're mercenary and they're ruthless, right? And I'm having to start to think about becoming mercenary and ruthless too, because we need to survive financially. But I'm lucky that I have a government house and a roof over my head. Where I was watching a Insight on television yesterday, the Insight show about how many people are losing their homes, can't sustain the mortgages because they keep pushing the interest rates off, and they're literally squeezing people to the wall. People are suiciding. They're literally killing us. They couldn't kill us all with the COVID thing because that blew back in their face. So now they're crushing us with interest rates. And it's evil what's going on. It's really evil. So I was watching that and I got so triggered and so distressed that I had to remind myself that I'm one of the lucky ones, because I'm so poor and behind everyone else in the great scheme of things, because I don't have any superannuation, I don't have a husband, I don't have a partner to bring in a nice income, I don't have a home of my own because I was stripped of them by husband and mother, I don't have all I have is a few chattels that I fought for 2.5 years in an evil, salacious, disgusting wool dispute from 2010 to 2012, and it's taken me since 2012 to heal from that. So it's been horrendous what I've been put through, and yet here I am, weirdly in a better position than most people, because I don't have debts hanging over my head apart from the little bit of afterpay and the zip pay for that torch and the few bits and pieces I bought on Monday. I don't have any huge debts. I don't, I'm except for car repairs now. I need to organise that soon for my car. But I don't owe money on the car because I bought that with my small inheritance. And so I don't have large masses of debt where I'm about to lose everything with my back to the wall, like the majority of people are who own their own homes and are only on small incomes, right? My God. Watching that documentary, or well, it's not really a documentary, it's I don't know how you describe that show, but they interview people and have people talking about the situation, how they're surviving, what's going on. Anyway, it was horrendous. It's really horrendous. The rental market is getting higher and higher and higher. People can barely afford rent, and then they're squeezing the people who are homeowners. Some of the women there were single mothers, and think, well, how the hell did you even get to afford to buy a house in a single mother income? Because I couldn't. I was never able to get myself a home again while raising 2 young girls in dire poverty. We were in such dire poverty that I had trouble putting food on the table. I was having to go to charities and beg, and it was deeply humiliating. I did that for years. Had no choice. Is that or we starved? And then I had these freeloading bloody friends that used to come and rip open my pantry and say, you have to help feed us because we're all on drugs and we can't afford to live either. I mean, the nerve of it, when I'm struggling to raise 2 young girls. It was evil what was done to me. And the things that I tolerated for the sake of just having a bit of companionship and friendship in my life. I tell you what, I wouldn't piss on those people if they were on fire now. That's how disgusting it all was, really. But in those days, I was so munted out on heavy psychiatric medications, I couldn't think straight. Here I have this little, look at this little spider just jumped on me. Where is it? Here it is. Little green spider. Hello. Little jumping spider. He's got a web hanging off me as well. Now look, mate, like, the snakes in that is too much, but you guys go in the garden where you belong, surrounded by spiders and snakes. And anyway, I'm not so frightened of spiders anymore as I used to be. I used to have a terrible phobia of spiders. No, the most dangerous things now are the 2-legged humanoids. They're frightening. They frighten me worse than the snakes and the spiders now. But I never let them show fear. I never show it. That is the trick, people. Look more mean and dangerous than they are. I'm a true Viking, in my spirit anyway. So where was I talking about? Oh yes, so that's right. Yesterday, watching that Insight show, getting myself really distressed. But prior to that, this lovely man arrived to buy the decanters, and he was so excited about it because he knew he was getting a bargain, right? This is how I know they know they're getting a bargain, and they actually appreciate it and they're happy. He was like, oh, I'm so thrilled, I'm so happy. I said, yes, I thought you were a dealer. I see you have all this uranium glass on your profile. He said, no, I'm not a dealer, I'm a collector. He said, have you got time? And he was such a sweet man, actually. He would have been my age group, in his 50s. And he said, have you got time? I said, oh, darling, I've got time, I don't work. So he's showing me on his iPhone all his collection of beautiful uranium glass from the 20s, right? It's very interesting. I admired it all. It was lovely. Anyway, he brought a big cardboard box full of bubble wrap, so I wrapped up the bottles and I showed him how heavy the crystal was. I said, it's good German crystal, it's not crap, you're getting a bargain here. And he was thrilled. And I said, I suppose when you've retired, you've got time to look around to buy the uranium glass and other things. He says, oh, yes. He said, actually, I'm still working. I said, oh, really? He said, yes. He says, I do shift work. He said, I work as a train driver for Queensland Rail. I gave him a bit of a funny look because a few days prior, a man came and bought this big round globe I had, light fitting, that goes on the ceiling. It's just a big round ball. And I sold that for $20. And by the way, just the gallery that holds it to the ceiling is worth at least $20, $25 because I was having to buy them to fit my vintage light fittings that I've got now installed in my house. So, and I didn't want the ball because I'd replaced it with these more vintage looking, antique looking light fittings, right? So anyway, that man got a bargain and he also was thrilled and delighted about it. Well, so you should be, And he also mentioned that he was a train driver. So I thought, oh, that's very interesting, because it's kind of in a weird way connected to my mother in a weird way, because my mother was a tram conductress and worked on the trams in Wellington. Well, we're talking in the, in the 60s, early 70s, or before I was born, actually. I was born in 65. So it must have been in the late, the late 50s until 64 when she got pregnant with me. She was working as a tram conductress. It's a little bit similar to trains because she had to, adjust the the tram lines and anyway, there is a slight similarity. And the other interesting thing is my friend Jared, who we've been friends now for 32 years, he has an uncle who's a train driver who about 10 years ago suggested I go and learn how to drive trains. He said it's a great career for a woman and you should do it, and it's easy work. You just sit at the thing and drive it. He said you can drive all across Queensland, you make big money. I said, oh, I don't think I can do it. He said, why not? I said, I have sleep apnea. Because of that, I couldn't do taxi driving. He said, oh no, they'd fit around you. They'd give you routes where you have time to sleep for a few hours in between. They'd work around it, he reckoned. He said, I'd help you, because he actually worked for the union. And you know what? I was an idiot, because he probably would have helped me into that job, and it probably would have been a good thing for me. So, but again, me being fearful of not being well enough and not being able to sustain a job and worrying about the bullying that goes on every time I try to hold down a job, I discounted the idea. And, how much bullying are you going to get when you're the driver and you sit alone in your own little cabin at the front of a train doing your thing? It would have been perfect, really. So anyway, I looked at this man yesterday who bought the decanters, and I thought, well, there you go. There's another hint from the universe that had been a viable option that I hadn't grabbed at that opportunity. So then I got terribly... after he left, a very nice man, very lovely man. After he left, I got slammed with this intense, deep depression, like a kind of a breakdown, right? And I felt sad about the fact that I'm having to sell off the chattels that were my mother's originally, that I had to fight so hard for, and that now I'm having to let go of because of poverty issues, and also trying to get enough money in to buy the equipment and tools I need to get my silversmithing underway. So my intentions are honourable and decent and worthy and respectable, but it's also painful in a way having to release all this stuff. And I can't help feeling a little bit that it was my mother's spirit, like angry that I'm letting go of things, because each time I let go of things that belong to her, it's like a release valve. Psh, and that connection to her is slowly being decompressed, like the gas that blew out of my leaky hose, right? So I was in a dark place all day yesterday, very dark. And I get worried when I get into those states, because that's when I get suicidal, right? And I was sitting there telling myself, you're all right, you're doing the right thing, you're letting go of clutter, you're letting go of things that you don't use and haven't used in the 13 years that you've had them in your possession. Actually 15 years, because the public trustee said I could have the things in 2008. So 15 years I've held on to these things like a precious dragon hoard, and I'm now letting them go quite cheap, just to have money flowing in and get the equipment I need. And you know what? It shouldn't be this hard. I should be supported. I could have gone on NDIS. I could have applied for NDIS. I could have got a lot more help from the government. And quite frankly, after they enabled my mother and her conman husband to rob me of the equivalent of 4 houses and land, they owe me big time. And that's why now, after years of ill health and struggle, they send me, which is very kind and I do appreciate it, a cleaning lady once a week to do the floors and the bathrooms and vacuum and mop the floors, to help me with the housework, because I'm not coping. I just can't do it with my lungs, the pushing and shoving and the scrubbing. It's a struggle. And they also send once a fortnight a lawnmower man, which that is the biggest help of all, because this grass is an enormous block of land to manage, and I've had to manage it for 20 years now. So, you know, the government is doing its bit to help me a little bit, but honestly, I could have been on that NDIS for the last, how long have I been on the disability pension for? Since 2005. And I could have had a lot more support, but, you know, it didn't even cross my mind, you know. In those days I was too ill, shuffling like a zombie on the bloody Zyprexa and the Abilify and the fucking Effexor and Surzone and Zoloft and you name it, I took it. All those medications that did nothing to heal my complex PTSD, just turned me into a drooling, shuffling, extremely fat, like fatter than I am now. I was 103 kilos in those days. Automaton. And I lost 30 years of my life. 15 on psych meds, plus the 15 before, struggling just to get to that point, right? What a nightmare. I have lived a veritable nightmare, which is why when I say I want to achieve things now at this late stage of life, it's a little bit sweet and a little bit pathetic and a little bit too little too late, but by God, I'm trying. I'm pulling out all stops, you know. All I ever wanted from life is to have a true love partner, you know, stand by my side and be a real man and treat me with kindness and respect and integrity and love and affection, be a decent man. Didn't get that in 58 years, did I? Well, partly it's because of my cynicism and my bitterness after the horrendous abuses I survived. So there is that. I do give off a vibe of don't come near me and don't fuck with me, and I don't have time for your bullshit. So I probably do repel some very nice men too, because I just can't trust in them. Sorry. Through strangulations, all the sexual assaults, all the awfulness, why would you trust in them? They're more dangerous than that carpet python who at least had the decency to smile at me while she was climbing up the table trying to get to Charlie, who thankfully was on my shoulder. Anyway, yesterday was a dark day from hell, and I was really triggered by watching that show, seeing how much homelessness and people about to lose their homes and all that horror, and thinking to myself, I'm all right for now. I still have a roof over my head, and with the pension for now, I have enough money to cover my bills. So far so good, because electricity, they tell me, is now going up 30%. Well, when that happens, I won't be able to afford to exist, because you know, I barely afford the electricity now and the gas. So that's triggering and a worry. And so I sat there shaking in my shoes yesterday how I'm going to continue to survive on this planet, in this epoch, in this paradigm. I've got to move. I'm in the wrong light now. The light has moved. How am I going to continue to survive, I thought to myself. And I got very, very, very distressed, not just about my own situation, which is comparatively good, ironically, but about, you know, my friends who are the working poor, who work very hard and pay extremely high rents. My daughter, who's in that position too. How the fuck are we all going to survive this evil of our current times? That was brought on by the COVID epoch, which was, by the way, a lab leak and deliberate, which I said from the very beginning. I knew it from the very beginning it was a genocide and deliberate. And people thought I was crazy, right? Oh, you're just crazy. Oh, you're just being a bit negative. Oh, you're just an asshole. This asshole knows things. This asshole is in touch with the multiverses. This asshole is a highly intelligent woman, even though she hasn't been able to succeed through no fault of her own. So go ahead and underestimate me. Never mind. Life goes on. We will manage. This morning I got up, woke up early at 8 o'clock actually, and I actually felt better. And I thought, oh, thank you God for a better day, because yesterday was, I know what yesterday was. It was a post-traumatic kind of breakdown, because I was so focused on Sunday after the accident with the hoses, with the Smith little torch hoses, that I went into warrior goddess mode, overachieving, and spent the whole afternoon, evening talking on Facebook with the Women's Collective, trying to find solutions of what I could do, which way to proceed next. And the next day, soldiering on, Viking mode into the city with my very sweet, kind Englishman that works for AJS, Mark, who was very sweet and supportive and helpful. But at the end of the day, I don't have the money. It all comes down to money. And Tuesday, I was starting to calm down, but just move through my day. And yesterday was the day. Boom. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3 days after the event. So I have to be careful with my nervous system, because my nervous system knows when it's too much for me. Anyway, today is a glorious day. We have to go look around the garden. We've got to find Charlie, because I can't have her free ranging so much like she used to because of the snakes that are around. Here she is, in the coffee tree. What are you doing, Charlie? What are you doing? Oh, you're in the coffee tree. But what if there's a big fat carpet python wants to eat your face? Charlie wants to eat your face. They won't just eat your face, Charlie. They'll swallow you whole. They'll open up their big jaws and they'll gobble you down in one big mouthful. And you'll just be a little lump in a snake. We can't have that, Charlie, because you're my baby. She goes, oh, Mama T, you're riddled with anxiety and fear. Stop it now. But if you look on my Instagram, you can see the video of that python coming after my bird. It was quite amazing. I showed my cleaning lady Rati this morning, and she was so cute. She's Muslim, as you could see, and she kept saying, Inshallah, Inshallah, because it was scary. So yes, I'm going to grab Charlie now. Charlie, cannot free range in the trees where Mummy can't see you because of the snakies. But don't worry, Charlie. Winter is coming, and in winter time, the snakes will go to sleep, and then you can go free ranging as much as you like again. She's like, what? Only 3 months a year? Yeah, sorry about that, Charlie. Sorry about that. Anyway, this has become a very long video, but I wanted to tell you about the events that happened on Monday, even meeting that lovely Russian man who was looking to get to Garden City, and the swings and roundabouts of my silversmithing journey, which is emblematic of my decision to succeed even though it's late in life and maybe it's too late for me and I'm wasting my time, but time will tell. And there's my little doggy watching us. He's so cute. And have a beautiful baby. Beautiful baby. Have a beautiful baby, people. Have babies for me because I can't have them anymore. That wasn't what I was trying to say. Have a beautiful day, people. And blessed be and much love from the multiverses at Sacred Space. Love you all. Be well. Be happy. Prosper in all your undertakings, no matter how big and no matter how small. And never let the bastards grind you down.